What's happening, guys? I hope everybody had a great long weekend. It is Monday. We've got a Monday night scan tonight instead of a Sunday night scan because it is Memorial Day. And Memorial Day is one of those weekends where it's nice to have a day off. It's nice to have a long weekend. Typically, the weather's nice, except today. It's actually clearing up now. However, it kind of gives me like 13 minutes in between rain. So I figured I probably should just do it inside. But the reason why we're here today, the reason why we celebrate today, the reason why we have those 3-day weekends is because it is Memorial Day. It is a time to think and thank and remember those that paid the ultimate sacrifice so that we can continue to do what we do, so that we can live free. And that's what this weekend is about. It's not just another day off. It's not just a 3-day weekend. So we need to always remember that and make sure we think about the families that have actually lost loved ones. First and foremost, last weekend, gave away Icon meals. As you know, I always preach consistency and, consistency in eating, consistency in working out, consistency in life, all leads to consistent trading, or at least will help with that. So I gave away Icon meals last week. However, the person lived in Canada. So the good news for you guys is that this week, Jason Stevens, you won that. So email me as long as you're within the US. You'll get a free week of food. That is the company that I use. Also, I haven't mentioned it in a while, but we just had a couple new folks join. But Avidity Fitness, if anybody needs that kick in the butt to join, Zach is always willing to give a couple weeks free just to get you guys in the door to get motivated and get moving. And we do the Zoom classes on Sunday and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So Saturday and Sunday is at 9, 10 a.m. and Tuesday and Thursday is at 6 p.m. And it keeps me accountable. It'll keep you accountable. And I do hope that a couple of you might have some interest in joining us. If not, that's okay. But I promise you, just knowing that you have to show up, it's half the battle. And once you're done, and you'll be happy you did it. So email me or contact Zach. It's ZT Mullen on Instagram or at Avidity Fitness on Twitter. And I can also put those in the notes. So, 2021 has been an absolute breeze so far, as we've discussed, every single week, firing all cylinders, really seeing the market well, really, doing the right things, taking the right losses, scaling into the right trades, and really just compounding gains and gains and gains and gains. However, I had one goal, and we went over it in a couple, maybe 2 or 3 scans ago. And my goal was to trade, pretty well, pretty perfect into summer, because I always seem to screw something up right before summer. And so that was my one big goal, because it's a banner year. As I said, 2020 was a banner year, and by a couple weeks into February, I was already beyond 2020. And then it's just been pretty consistent, pretty awesome until last week. And I finally got stubborn. That's why I'm wearing the next shirt today, because, I need that next mentality. And, I did reset each and every single day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Monday was fine. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I had some fantastic trades. I'm seeing the market so well right now, except one name. And you can probably guess, that's AMC. So, I started into that a few times, and I had such a bias that I felt like I needed to be there. I felt like I needed to kind of at least have a core trade on, so that if and when they pulled the rug, I already had a position I could just scale in, because I knew it was going to be one of those trades that was just, unbelievable. Like, maybe 2-3 times a year type opportunity. And I just had this huge FOMO that I just did not want to miss it. And, the entries, I had perfect entries. And the lines, I was using, key levels, and they were literally perfect to, within a dime, sometimes within a penny each and every single time. But I was trading around a core. I was trading around a core on an uptrending chart, and I was letting my bias take control of what was going on. So, if you go back to Tandem Trader, if you go back to any of the videos that I've done, you're kind of at the liberty of the market, right? When you say, hey, that's fine, let's just kind of see what it does, what happens? You can go for a ride. So, I was trading some pretty good size on AMC, and, I had a lot of good trades, and I respected the trend extremely nicely, but I had the cores, and the cores are what killed me. So, I got chopped up, and it was just 3 days in a row of chop, 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 and being stubborn that, it was a difficult week for me. Now, I reset. Friday was great. Friday worked out really, really well. It was nice to finish the week off extremely well, but it's still annoying that I let my guard down. It's annoying that I went against, the having the bias and screwing up. Super avoidable. And I think beyond that, what the aggravating part is, and this goes for a lot of traders too, when you're trading really, really well and you do something stupid, what happens? The opportunity cost. The opportunity cost, because when you're firing on all cylinders, you can take those risks. You can take the risk that you want to take on these particular A+ setups because nothing else matters, right? Because as long as you're trading well, as long as you're risking properly and you're stopping out, it was worth it because it was an A+ setup. And when you end up being stubborn, when you end up overstaying, when you end up having these unnecessary losses, sometimes maybe you're not going to be firing on all cylinders, and it makes you kind of take a step back a little bit, and you end up missing these A++++ setups because of your prior actions. And so that was a little bit of Friday for me. Friday was a great day, like I said, but honestly, it probably should have been 5x what I did. And that was a direct correlation with how I traded prior in the prior days in the week. And unfortunately, yes, it was a good day, but the opportunity cost because of bad behavior earlier in the week cost me quite a bit on Friday. So, that happens. And, I'll tell you one other opportunity cost situation. VTNR. A lot of you guys saw that call, and I was loaded. I was long size at 330s. As I said in the room, I was buying all dips. I felt like they were running a liquidity algorithm. And what I mean by that is just constant creation of volume, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I call it they, whomever's behind it. You can probably assume that H.C. Wainwright and Craig Halium, whatever their name is, you can assume that they're probably all working together. There's probably something going on there behind the scenes. But, to me, that was a situation where they just created a bunch of volume and they're soaking size. And their one goal was to shake guys out like me who have a large long position and take me from X to 110X and 1/10 X. And that's exactly what they did, right? So, say you've got 100,000 shares, say you've got 200,000 shares. Their goal is to just keep on whittling you down to 10 or 20,000 shares, because then when it rips $3 a share, you're not blowing it back in their face because you already did. You already sold it at $3 lower. And the opportunity cost because of AMC, I had a huge trade on VTNR, but I sold it. I sold most of it. I sold about 90% of it. And the reason I did that is because how I was trading on AMC. So because of my actions on one name, they kind of came over onto the next name. And then that should never happen. And I would have let it work. I would have let it actually swing it and let that trade work to what I thought was going to happen had I not been a little bit too loose on some of my AMC trades. So that's another example of opportunity cost, and how it's not necessarily losing, but it is missing out on opportunity. So essentially it is the same, except your account's not going down. It's just not going up at the speed that it should. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, just because, like I said, it's been a great 2020, a great 2021. There are always times that I'm going to screw up. There's always times that I need to, really zone back in and, just do the next mentality that I preach. And it's not just preaching it and not doing it. I mean, it is what it is. And I already reset on Friday, already a great day. And, it might take me a couple days to get right back on track, but I'm not going to do that if my mindset is not in the right place. Not going to make it back tomorrow, not going to make it back the next day. But if your head is set sometime in the future and you're working towards a goal, you'll get there before you know it. And in this market, it does not take long. It will take long if you try to do it tomorrow. It will take long if you try to fix it tomorrow. But as long as your goals and your expectations are in check, are reasonable, that's what's going to grind you back. That's what's going to get you there. If your expectations are unrealistic, then you're going to start to go backwards. You can't fix it in one day. You can fix it over time. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it was a big dent, small dent, whatever the case is. When you screw up, you go back to doing things that you shouldn't do. When you screw up, you should be doing what you do when you trade best. And when you trade best, you're trading less, you're trading the best of the best, you're cutting losses, and you're moving on. You're not trying to make. You're waiting for the trade. You're waiting for the trades to come to you. You're not trying to find trades. And that's the biggest difference when you're trading well versus trading to get back. At least from what I've seen, from my own experience, and I think that's the best way to kind of combat that. So, like I said, my one goal in 2021 was not to screw up into summer, because I've worked hard the last 2 summers. And, last summer was one of those summers you can't take a day off, because you're literally missing out on just monster normal people salaries literally every single day. And that's the opportunity cost. Sit on the beach with your toes in the sand, or, potentially change your life over a summer for the good, for the next couple of years. And that was kind of what I was faced with last year. So core trading versus bias, just to close that point up. The difference between trading around a core and having too much of a bias, you need to kind of know when your bias is taking over. And also, if you're trading around a core, I prefer to be on the right side of the trade, right? Because if you're on the upside and you're trading around a core, you could have perfect trades. I had perfect trades, perfect entries, perfect flushes, perfect covers, but that core killed me. And that's because I have a bias that I'm going to be right, that I should be right, that I am right. And instead of just trading it, if I had just traded those levels, perfect. But instead, the bias killed. And the last point that I have is, it just doesn't matter what you think, right? As soon as you give up, the trade's probably going to come in. As soon as people stop caring and trying to find the top, that's when the emotional side starts to unwind, and the craziness starts to come apart. So, that for me is, on Friday, it was a great trade. Shorted 35.50s, 35s. I got some ads, and I didn't cover a share until I think it was 26 or something like that. So it was nice, $8-9 per share unwind, and without a headache. And the difference was that it failed each and every single attempt versus held each and every single attempt. So anyway, I hope that you guys had a good week last week. I mean, there was definitely unreal opportunity. SPCE, a great setup for that squeeze from those 23s, went all the way up to 35 almost. The 3 parabolic out of the open, followed by a 3 pullback. That's huge opportunity. We had some really good stuff on BB. BB was the trade that I took based off of AMC. So I always call it like the AMC index, right? Just like we had the GME index. When GME was going crazy, we'd watch AMC, KOSS, BBBY, BB, what else? Rocket, RKT, a bunch of those other names. And so when AMC comes in and it was bringing all these other trades up, such as BB, they're probably going to unwind too. And they're not going to give you the same headache that AMC is going to give you. So BB was a fantastic $2 per share unwind. I had posted on Twitter for those of you guys that saw, but just a great, less of a headache, more clear cut, better risk reward type of opportunity, and that was on BB. So we'll get right into the scan for today. Again, I'm not going crazy with getting prepared. You know, we might wake up to another 300-point gap. We might wake up to a 300-point gap down. Pre-market is important. I'm still focused on, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., get a feel for it. I might take trades, but then take those trades off. I don't really want to hold a trade through open unless I'm really, really on the right side. What I've noticed is a lot of times they fade it pre-market, and that whole fade, despite looking weak, is actually the trap in itself, and then they just reverse it right off the open. Everybody thinks they're like, oh yeah, this is going to be a nice easy day, and then it ramps right back up. You saw the same thing on AMC when it went 20 to 19, 18.50, and then it slowly comes back up. So they're always changing stuff. Right now, you just got to show up, get prepared, have that plan 7 to 8 a.m., find your 2-3 watches that you're going to be taking potentially off the open. Otherwise, 9:45, 10 a.m. plus, hands off, wait for the trade. All right, guys, so this is the second part of the scan. This is where I go over what I'm looking to trade tomorrow and the week ahead. As always, I'm not an investment advisor, so these are not buy or sell recommendations. These are my thoughts, my goals. This is what I'm looking to potentially do if certain things happen. My goal is to go over what kind of thought process goes through my head so that it can better prepare you for what makes a potential good trade versus what makes a trade that you might avoid. This is for educational and informational purposes only. So if you're not good with that, then you shouldn't be watching the rest of the video. But if you are and you're interested in picking up a little bit of tidbits here and there, I'm going to try to share, as many as I can as I go through these potential charts and trades for me tomorrow. First and foremost, BB was fantastic. So BB, again, was the trade off of AMC. So AMC, it was nuts off the open, and it went crazy. And we had BB that was kind of hanging around. It actually went for a secondary squeeze. So I put on a small starter. I always put on small starters, and sometimes I go for a ride on that starter, but that's what they are. They're a starter. And I can do that with a starter. If I'm scaling into the trade, then I should be stopping out along the way. That's how you get in trouble. If you're one of those that just adds all the way up, that is a recipe for disaster. That's not what I do. When I scale into a trade, it's at key levels, it's after exhaustion points, it's after something that happens in the tape or the chart or the trend that suggests that, hey, this thing's going to turn, this thing's, coming in. And if it doesn't, at that point, when I size into the trade, if I am wrong, I size out. I can always resize back in. So BB, I had joined this fade and basically just waited for AMC to start to unwind. You can see how well it behaved with it, and it started to come in. We also had that opportunity midday. Had you maybe not got there on that first pop, you had some nice failed follow through momentum, and you had this nice top right at 1150s. You can see it had this top here. So typically what I'd be looking for is failed follow through momentum. So you've got this nice fail, plus you've got this fail at VWAP. So maybe you're not comfortable shorting into the pops. Maybe you want to wait for it to break down. I'd be looking for VWAP to break down and then risk towards that 1150 level. So now you've got basically a 20-cent risk, 1130s to 1150s, for the potential of the downside. If AMC were to go red, then BB potentially would as well. And as you can see, it had a nice unwind, it had a nice opportunity. and hopefully we have another trade on it come Monday. AMC right now is gapping up in Germany. I don't know how that will play towards the market for us on Tuesday, but one thing to consider is maybe the 4 a.m. club will be hot. 4, 5, 6 a.m. before the market kind of comes back and starts to fade it off. But if AMC gaps up, I think we'll have another trade opportunity here. If it doesn't, then that's okay. And I'll just look for some type of trend join 9:45, 10 a.m. plus. But the key takeaway, in my opinion, here is when you have a situation where you have one name that is fueling all these other names, what can you learn from that? What can you take away from that? And this is a great example of AMC as sort of your index, such as SPY, right? We watch the SPY to understand where the market is at any given time. And if the market starts to tank, maybe we focus our energy on a couple different names that typically trend with the SPY, but might give a better percentage gain, whether it to be to the downside, upside, whatever the case may be. Same deal here. Use AMC to guide you on BB, BBBY, GME. You can see here, BBBY also pulled back in the morning. Clearly, it held a little bit better than the rest. But RKT, very similar. That was another, it's in the meme index. The AMCs, the GMEs, RKTs, and all the rest that I just went over. So the other one was BYND. BYND, I was short. And I started to notice that there was pretty much a peak here in the 153 range, right? So again, anytime that I'm shorting into the top end of a channel, you can kind of see that it was hanging around between basically 153 and you call it 150s because of the whole and half dollar marks, the key levels that we talk about, 150, 155, 160. But you can see that pretty much the key level was this 149 range. It kind of was a magnet in this level, and it peaked out a few times and then unwound. But for me, I was shorting into the pops 153 range. And it goes to show you sometimes they do that one last hurrah, blow out a few stops before it comes in. But again, this was another one that I was watching with AMC, and it came in beautifully. So higher the better, potential unwind. If we have a gap on AMC, then we have a potential gap here, and then I'd be looking for the failed follow through. Again, we're in a unique market where you don't want to step in front of stuff and fight it. So it's one thing to start into the trade. It's one thing to scale into the trade when you're right, but be cautious scaling into the trade if you're wrong. It's fine to scale into the trade, but just make sure that you have a stop plan. Make sure that you know where you're going to be wrong. Make sure you know that, hey, this was my plan. It's not happening. I should probably behave now. AMC. Like I said, right now, I guess it's gapping in Germany, 12 or 15%, something like that. So, do we get a $2, $3 gap? Maybe. Do we get a bigger gap? Maybe. I think it's possible that we have a 4 a.m. type gap here. Again, more of a hands-off for me. I'm waiting for those big trades, and we had great opportunities on this one through the day. And really for me, it was a focus on the A+ setups, not every setup. That's what got me in trouble earlier in the week, trying to trade it, the entire day. In, out, in, out, in, out, trying to nail every single move. And if you just take a step back and focus on those big picture moves, you're going to have a lot less headaches. So I will be focused on it. Obviously, they tried to probably pin it around that 26 level through the afternoon there. Probably related to options. But let's see what happens. We should have one good trade off the open, and then maybe something a little bit later on when it starts to settle down a little bit. BBBY, obviously, if AMC starts to fail, then I've been looking for a failed fall through momentum on this one as well. Again, I think we're going to have BBBY, and BYND as potential trades, but we have to wait for AMC to agree. Don't take these off radar once AMC starts to fall off your radar. Because if AMC starts to do this quiet fade, we're going to have opportunity here. and it's going to be a nice trade. So keep an eye on that. I think the edge is keeping these on radar while it goes off other people's radars. Cron, this one is obviously a cannabis name with Tilray and many of the others. This had a nice spike. This was CNBC. Nigerian was highlighting the calls. Actually held extremely well throughout the day. I think the key here is not trying to find the top. I have it under the failed fall through momentum setup area, which basically means I want to let it do its thing. I want to let it fail. And as it fails, then I'd want to join that trend. I don't want to try to find the top. One thing about the sector, Tilray actually came in pretty well. CGC held well, though. So, you want to see a little bit of confirmation and make sure that you're not just jumping in front of the cannabis sector if we're just on the brink of another bull run, right? Like some type of big rebound. So we've got a nice breakout here, and it did hold trend pretty well, and we could have another couple days. Tilray does not suggest that yet, but you never know, and so I'd be watching Tilray, CGC, as well as Cron. And when maybe Tilray or CGC start to unwind, Cron might be a great opportunity to fade. So I'd be putting some price alerts on that one. Viacom finally had a nice bounce, and then it ended up coming in. I missed this trade. And again, it's been a great trade. I know it does not look like much, but when it sets up and it fails off the open, when it gives those 70, 80 cent dollar type fades, that's a great trade. It's a great trade in my eyes because it doesn't require much babysitting. You get on the right side and you let it kind of do its thing while you're trading other names. And that's the ultimate goal for me, is to have 3 or 4 of these where you get on the right side and you just kind of let it work. And then you're focused on your A+ setups. You're focused on the next trades. And whether you need a stop or whatever you want to do with it, that's fine. But at least you're letting the trade work for you instead of you always, pushing all the buttons. Next up is the continuation section, VTNR. I've got it under continuation. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'd like to see a pullback still. I'd like to actually see it pull back tomorrow, consolidate, and whether that is, let's see. So it's pretty much the 740s right now. It did have a lot of blow off into the 8s at the end of the day. I think there was a huge squeeze into Friday. I'd like to see it pull back. If it starts to hold 680s to 720s in that range, I think that the move is still, on the front side. And if it does hold trend, if it does kind of look like it's going to fall apart, but it doesn't, on Wednesday, I'd want to see it retest that low. And if it holds the low, I'm interested in the long. And so a lot of times you see it kind of ramp up, pull back, puts in a base, and climbs back up. That would be on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I'd want to see it go back and test that base. If it confirms, a lot of times you see those next candles. And that would also probably be a heavy buy-in day as well. We had, back-to-back 200 million volume days. So we could have a nice short squeeze. But again, I don't think it's going to happen on your timetable. Just like that first move. We had a huge move, pulled back. It was so difficult to hold size. And then the next day it squeezes out, and then it just died. It looked like nothing was going on. But it held trend. So if you were short, you definitely held it. And then the next day you got screwed when they upgraded it to $25. Wrap. We talked about this last week. You guys know the deal there. That was a nice breakout. I have small left. I never really sized into the trade, but I did sell some on Friday. That worked out really, really well. But I would plan on letting it just work until it stops working. Tell was another nice one. Tell was the goal. Had a nice transitional day. We talk about that a lot, where there's a big volume day, but the move doesn't necessarily happen that day. Same thing with VTNR, right? Had a huge, huge day, but if you bought that day, you didn't necessarily kill it, right? Unless you sold into the ramp, then you did. But overall, the actual move itself happened the next day. And same thing with Tell, where you've got that transition day where new buyers come in, old buyers come out, shorts come in. buyers that bought for the breakout sell, you name it. It's just this big volume day, and it just, everybody transitions in and out throughout the day, and then it pulls back a little bit and then goes. And so that's exactly what I was talking about with VTNR, right? So say we open tomorrow like this. On Wednesday, if it comes back and holds a higher low, that's what I feel like could happen. So same deal, I use that same strategy, and I took tail long. The goal was ideally pulls back into the 470s, or excuse me, 370s, and get long for the potential breakout towards red to green, and that's exactly what happened. So I am swinging that one as well. APOP, we need to watch for breakout. I'm still long here. I've been letting it kind of trade out. There's been a buyer in the tape for quite some time. There is a forward-looking event, and I guess the merger or whatever is towards the end of the quarter, and they're going to have a symbol change and all that kind of stuff. Lately, as we're getting closer to merger dates, things have been going, things have been running. So that is sort of the catalyst, the thought process here. But we need to see a base over, I would say, 350s. If it starts to base over 350s, it could get really fun. UGRO, no position yet. I like the wicks. We talk about the wicks all the time. Week open, breakout, week open, continuation, week open, continuation. What it symbolizes is that every time it pulls back, there's a buyer that takes it up. Pulls back, there's a buyer that saves it. Pulls back, buyer saves it. So I want to be part of that. And you got to be prepared for one day. Maybe it just has a day off. But I'd like to join. I don't have a position yet, and I am watching that. And last but not least, Playboy is starting to set up again. Hopefully it finally, patience finally pays. We'll see. It's been a good trade so far. I am still long the majority of the swing. And we'll see how that one works out. But it did start to float up there on Friday. But, ended up coming back a little bit. It popped up a little bit after hours. So we'll see what happens there. But as always, if you guys have any questions, cam@investorsunderground.com, email them. Please leave a like, leave your key takeaway. Key takeaways can just be in the form of a timestamp and just write what you learned. The good part about this is everybody else gets to hear what you thought was important. Maybe they missed it. Maybe you went right over it. But they can click it, go back to it, and rehear it, and maybe it'll be an aha moment. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, like I said, email. We do have the Memorial Day sale this weekend. If you're interested in coming on board, this is a great time given the discounts that we do this weekend. So we'll see you in the room tomorrow. Have a good rest of the weekend. Sorry the scenery was not as good today. It is actually nice out, and the rain's gone, and it's sunny. So, I didn't want to chance it, though. I didn't want to chance it with the wind. Plus, my editor would probably quit on me. So, anyway, have a great weekend, and we'll see you in the room tomorrow.